I'm Elaine Reyes at the United Nations headquarters in New York, and this is a special edition of UN Insider.
Coming up.
We can't create a future fit for our grandchildren with systems built for our grandparents.
Preparing for an event that could help transform the United Nations and how it approaches the biggest issues of our time.
The Summit of the Future is mainly about that, is how we can better deliver and how we can be more effective.
Giving young people a voice in key global issues. How the UN is trying to meet the needs of the next generation. And navigating a complex digital world without leaving anyone behind. A special look at what's at stake during the UN Summit of the Future. Next.
World leaders are beginning to gather here in New York ahead of the high-level events of the 79th UN General Assembly. This session will address pressing global issues, and it is expected to help reshape the United Nations itself.
21st century challenges require problem-solving mechanisms that are more effective, networked, and inclusive. That serious power imbalances in global institutions must be adjusted and updated, and that our institutions must draw on the expertise and representation of all of humanity. Change will not happen overnight, but it can start today.
What will the future look like for the UN, and how can the organization best address the biggest issues in a rapidly changing world? That's the focus of the Summit of the Future. It gets underway this weekend.
What might the future look like? Is it a world where advanced technology helps humans to live in harmony with nature, and where global cooperation ensures the security of all? Or is it one defined by climate disasters, disease and warfare, which change the very face of this planet? Well, the short answer, it depends. We are in the grips of an environmental crisis. Temperatures are climbing, ice sheets are shrinking, oceans are getting warmer, and sea levels are rising. Political conflicts have torn societies apart, all while the global economy is still convulsed by aftershocks from the COVID-19 pandemic. Plus, the ascent of artificial intelligence is inspiring as much fascination as it does fear of its unbridled potential and potential perils. To help confront these challenges, the United Nations is holding the Summit of the Future. Held over 2 days in September right here in New York, this once-in-a-generation gathering unites leaders from across the world to help redefine our path forwards. The 5 major areas to be addressed encompass sustainable development, international peace and security, science and technology, the youth, and transforming global governance.
Together, we have the power to change things.
Building up to the summit, the United Nations has reaffirmed its Act Now campaign, urging people to take actions for a healthier planet, a better economy, and a just society. There's also an app called A World, dedicated to promoting the Sustainable Development Goals. The summit aims to produce a so-called Pact for the Future, what the UN sees as a new international consensus for building a better tomorrow. Gerald Tan, CGTN, at the United Nations headquarters in New York.
Let's take a look at what happens behind the scenes inside UN HQ to prepare for UNGA 79.
Yes, which delegation? What is it about?
For us here at the Protocol Service, it's about being prepared.
You can tell me that history's God, but we need credentials. Yes.
We are your go-to resource if you have any protocol or event management question. Every year in September, our office is taking care of the preparations of the high-level week, where heads of state, government, and also ministers from all over the world come here to the UN to deliver their address to the people of the world. We work with the delegations and with the organizers of the substantive offices to make the events run as smoothly as possible.
First of all, welcome. Thank you very much for coming. We're going to do this walkthrough so that you can see all the potential places where your head of delegation may be visiting, both for Summit in the future and the General Assembly. So right now we're here in the delegates' entrance, which we're all very familiar with. We'll have a line of protocol officers here. They will greet the head of delegation. They will escort them up the escalators.
We've had walkthroughs for delegations to understand better where the heads of state and government are going and what restrictions we have.
Only the president will go through those doors escorted by protocol and security. Everybody else from the delegation will go in there if they have the gold card, the gold access card. If you only have the blue access card, you have to wait here in this area until the head of state returns or until the meeting ends.
We try to do as many things as we can already this week before then we go live next week. We have only 11 protocol staff here in the core team, but now today we have received 19 protocol officers from all over the world.
Welcome and welcome back.
Patrick, we have about 400.
We are registering delegates.
We get it done today by the end of...
My colleagues as of Friday had already registered 8,000 delegates.
These are the lists that needs to be cross-checked.
I think what unites all of us is that we love our job. We love working for the United Nations. We love working with delegations. You work on something like this high-level week, and then you see the event actually taking place, and there were no major hiccups. That in itself is something that's very gratifying.
So anyway, you move at the United Nations, during the high-level week, you need all these tickets, because without this, they can't go to the GA hall. They can come to the UN.
You have to be meticulous with details, but at the other hand, you have to be super flexible and kind of, a person that gets the job done.
This one is missing one goal. Can you count 196 only?
The week itself is going to be long hours for everybody, a lot of being on your feet, a lot of standing, and you will see us at the end of the week. We will not quite look as fresh as we do at the moment, but I think we're all excited and we're all looking forward to high-level week.
From the Security Council to the briefing room and beyond, Shudija is monitoring the latest developments inside the UN. Deja.
Yes, Elaine. As predicted, this week, UN General Assembly resumed its 10th emergency special session and took action on the first ever Palestine-introduced draft resolution to urge Israel and its presence in occupied Palestine territory within 12 months. The resolution was adopted overwhelmingly with 124 votes in favor, 14 against, and 43 abstention. No surprise, US and Israel voted against the resolution.
Draft resolution A/10/L31/revision 1 is adopted.
Before the vote, Israel permanent representative to the UN, Danny Danoon, called General Assembly a circus.
I was certain that the first resolution that would be brought before you all would be the unanimous, unequivocal condemnation of terror, the rape, the torture, the kidnappings that took place on that darkest of days. Yet, there has been no condemnation. No resolutions. Instead, we gather here to watch the Palestinians' UN circus.
And then comes the Libyan ambassador, Tahir al-Sunni.
Just a while ago, we heard the representative of the occupying Israeli forces bashing you all, as he does with his predecessors, perform a show and teaching us and lecturing us about humanity and morality. Totally disconnected from reality. Even today, he couldn't bring any justification, nor speak about the topic we're discussing, the illegal settlements. He could not address the resolution and trying to show that the world started only on October the 7th, neglecting the fact of history. Well, if he considers this assembly a circus, guess what? I consider him a clown performing in this place.
We all know that General Assembly resolution is non-binding, which means those calls reflect international will, but don't necessarily mean that Israel will really abide by them. However, I need to point out that this is a binding resolution for the UN, so the UN General Assembly has to convene an international conference to advance implementation of the UN resolutions pertaining to question of Palestine. And then let's get back to Gaza. Last Wednesday, an UNRWA school in Gaza has been attacked. 6 UNRWA members were killed during the attack. But according to Israeli Ambassador Danny Danoon, 3 of the UNRWA members were Hamas. I had a cross-questioning on him and the spokesperson of the United Nations.
Sometimes it's very easy to blame Israel, like many high officials in this building did last Wednesday about the attack that I just showed the names of those terrorists. But once we provide the details, no one is retracting, no one is apologizing, and that's what we expect, to have a dialogue, and we will provide answers for every question. I think we have to ask UNRWA why they haven't got back to us regarding those guys that they are paying them every month.
On the UNRWA school, today the Israeli ambassador showed us photos of 7 what they call Hamas terrorists. 3 of them, clearly they put a label on it, said UNRWA hired. Do you have any update about the communication between UNRWA and Israeli authorities on this issue?
Look, what I know is what UNRWA has told me is that they have not received a request, an official request from the Israelis to provide them with the list of staff killed in the attack. And also to say that the names listed had not been flagged by Israel to UNRWA prior. And as a reminder, that all of the names of UNRWA staff are shared with Israeli authorities, as they are shared with Lebanese authorities for those who work in Lebanon and Jordanian as well. UNRWA has always been open and willing to enter into dialogue with the Israeli authorities on these issues.
But it's worth noting that according to international humanitarian law, both behavior, militants hiding inside civilian shelter or IDF striking it, are not right. And this week also, there were explosions of pagers in Lebanon, resulting in 1,000 injuries and multiple deaths. What does the Secretary General think about this incident?
Obviously, the logic of making all these devices explode is to do it as a preemptive strike before a major military operation. This event confirms that there is a serious risk of a dramatic escalation in Lebanon, and everything must be done to avoid that escalation.
Would this be a very dangerous precedent for the future war, that using civilian device to have this kind of large-scale explosions?
Indeed, I think it's very important that there is an effective control of civilian objects, not to weaponize civilian objects. That should be a rule that everywhere in the world governments should be able to implement.
Well, next week, the biggest week of the year is coming, the high-level week. But for now, that's all from me. Elaine.
Shudija, thanks. Nearly a year into the conflict in Gaza, the UN says a political solution is the only sustainable path forward. The UN's humanitarian and reconstruction coordinator for Gaza says more action on the ground is needed to save civilian lives. The UN's Gender Snapshot Report for 2024 highlights progress toward gender equality, but shows significant challenges remain. According to the report, failure to invest in women and girls costs the global economy $10 trillion annually. UN officials say more needs to be done to close technology gaps and ensure no one is left behind. While more member states are engaged in a digital transformation, more than 1.3 billion people remain on the wrong side of the digital divide.
Coming up.
Young people are currently our biggest opportunity to put the SDGs back on track.
UN Insider.
Making sense of the overwhelming wave of information means cutting through the noise to shine a light on the heart of the story and making room for new perspectives. True understanding means the ability to see events from more than one side. I'm Liu Xin, and this is The Point.
Expanding the role of young people in global decision-making is one of the key goals for the upcoming Summit of the Future. The UN is looking to increase youth engagement at every level, giving younger generations a bigger say in the world they will inherit. I sat down with Felipe Paulier, Assistant Secretary General for Youth Affairs. Felipe, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Elaine. Very happy to be here.
Well, for months you've been traveling, talking to young people about their dreams and their fears. What have they been telling you?
It's been an amazing journey, challenging sometimes, a bit overwhelming, I also have to share, but amazing in terms of meeting young people that are, by their example, leading and making the Sustainable Development Goals their own agenda. What it's clear is that the UN, the United Nations, is something important for young people. They have hope in the UN, and they want to be part of the United Nations. And I think that's why we believe that the United Nations Youth Office is a vehicle to catalyze that necessity of a more meaningful way of engaging with young people. The 193 countries that are part of the United Nations thought that it was crucial to have a specific mechanism in the organization to advance this agenda. The youth engagement, the youth participation is crucial for the Sustainable Development Agenda, for the Human Rights Agenda, and for the Peace and Security Agenda. So the Youth Office is one step forward in a process of prioritizing this agenda in the United Nations.
Young people have been contributing ideas and will have their voices heard at the Summit of the Future. What is their role at this event, and how are they leading the charge toward reaching the SDGs?
We are off track when it's about the 2030 agenda. And young people are currently our biggest opportunity to put the SDGs back on track. This Summit of the Future, it's essentially an opportunity for governments to recommit with the United Nations, to recommit with the importance of having this common and global platform. It's recommitting to the importance of multilateralism to address our current gaps. We have the most active conflicts in the Second World War. We are facing very complex and interconnected challenges, such as the climate crisis, the mental health crisis that is affecting mostly also adolescents and young people across every country. And that needs a strong multilateralism to be successful in achieving these gaps. And the Summit of the Future is mainly about that, is how we can better deliver and how we can be more effective in addressing these challenges.
Do you feel that the participants have a sense that their role is a very important one at the Summit of the Future? And do they feel that the world leaders gathering will listen to what they have to say?
Not only listening, but also committing with this participation is crucial if we want to really accelerate and be more effective as an institution. You know, Elaine, 50% of the world's population is under 30 years old. But there's a big disbalance in terms of participation in decision-making spaces. And let's put it in simple issues, you know. Are we really going to be effective in addressing the gaps in employment, education for young people if we don't bring them into the table to really address and to solve these issues?
I want to get your thought on some of the countries we're seeing around the world where it seems that younger and younger people are being chosen to lead their countries. I mean, is this part of a bigger trend that you hope to see?
So I strongly believe that more young people in politics will bring better politics. I'm convinced about that. Although we have success cases in some regions, in some countries, the reality is that we are very far of being at a situation that we could say that it's currently positive. While, as I mentioned, 50% of the world's population is under 30 years old. Only 3% of young parliamentarians are under 30. So we believe that there's currently a lot more to do.
You were talking about your recent travels, and one of the countries you stopped in was China. Spent some time there in Beijing at the Youth Development Forum. What were your takeaways from speaking to youth there?
So, first of all, it's an amazing country. It was my first visit to China. It's an amazing culture, an ancient culture, an amazing place. And I was very happy and very excited about the willingness of young Chinese to be part of the global issues. They're willing to be part of the UN discussions. They're willing to really put their expertise, their skills on this process, you know. They believe in the United Nations as a multilateral platform, and they want to be part, you know. And the World Youth Development Forum, an initiative of the Chinese government also to bring China into the global agenda and to bring young people also into China. I think it's an amazing platform for that to happen, you know. And I was really happy to not only to be in China for the first time, but to be in China to celebrate my first International Youth Day in China with this more than 200 participants from around 50 countries that were participating in the World Forum.
Dr. Felipe Poirier, ASG, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Elaine. It was a real pleasure.
Coming up.
Shenzhen is the city for IoT devices, and maybe the biggest one in China or even biggest one in the world.
UN Insider.
You can't talk about the future without talking about digital technology. One of the goals for the Summit of the Future is establishing a global digital compact, a plan to close the global digital divide, harness powerful technologies while managing the risks, and building a digital economy that leaves no one behind. China has emerged as a global leader in artificial intelligence technology. A UN report shows between 2014 and 2023, China-based inventors filed patents for more than 38,000 generative AI inventions. Technology that could change the face of industries like publishing, transportation, and security. The focus on high-tech advances can be seen in the southern Chinese city of Shenzhen. It has emerged as a global innovation hub.
In 1980, Shenzhen was designated as China's first special economic zone. In decades that followed, the city's boom has made it the heart of tech startups like Core Rain Technologies. This company makes the chip that power AI. Rachel Xiao is its Chief Operations Officer.
Shenzhen is like the city for IoT devices, and maybe the biggest one in China or even biggest one in the world, like the camera industry, drone, robotics industry, and servers industry. AI chip is actually the foundation of the whole AI technology. If we take self-driving car as an example, the AI chip is like the brain for the car. For other companies, they may need to hire a whole team to develop from one application to another. For us, because we have the streaming architecture for the hardware chip and we have the AI platform, we can develop a new application from scratch within really short of time. We work with city officials, like they called Shanghai City Management and Operations Center. It's a really big platform for the government to coordinate and also to manage the whole city system.
Core Rain is helping cities get smarter with AI.
Just need to start the camera. Then you can see the coding is running on the back end. And if some more people work in, you can say this model is to detect your faces. And this has been used in different scenarios, like in the security system and also in like the smart community, smart traffic system. We had a program in Shanghai, Pudong, to help them to recognize the construction cars. It's a big problem for them because it damages the environment, and if one district's car get into another one and dump the construction garbages, it will cause a big problem for them. So with our camera installed, it can easily detect the construction cars. And then under the plate as well. Then the management, city manager will get these information straight away. If they're having too much garbages and they didn't cover the hood, there will be an alert, or they didn't close the back door properly, or the plate shows this doesn't belong to this district, they would just call them out.
Over the last decade or so, because of a combination of the reasons, innovation and entrepreneurship has been developing very fast in China. And so by definition, a lot of this innovation entrepreneurship were driven by the startups. And the startups were in turn, supported by a lot of investment companies, initially with angel investors, and then by venture capital funds. The whole atmosphere of the startup community in China has grown significantly over this period of time.
I'm Elaine Reyes at UN headquarters in New York. Thanks for being a UN insider.